I'm fluent in German, native speaker, and English out of necessity. So can I really learn a more complicated language outside of a school setting? Yes, you can learn any language. No, it doesn't have to be like school. If classroom learning is all you're used to, it can feel really intimidating later in life when you either want to revive that rusty high school French or tackle an entirely new language, especially when the languages that you've learned previously were typically out of necessity. I'm thinking of English and the role that that has around the world. First up then, it's important to clear up that solo language learning does not mean doing it alone. There will be people involved in your language learning. You are allowed to work with a teacher from time to time. You can have as many language exchange partners as you want, and you can still call it solo study, because what that means is you are the one in control. You are the teacher. Because really, if you rely on those moments with teachers or exchange partners, whoever it is, if you rely on those interactions with other people as your only speaking practice, you'll never be ready to speak. You'll always feel like a newbie. You'll never feel truly confident that you're using the right words. And you'll get mistaken for being quiet or shy when really you just don't know what half of the conversation is. The way around this is really simple. Become your own teacher. With that, you'll be in control of how much you speak and what that practice looks like. But before we get into that, there's something that we need to unpack. So in that comment at the very beginning, part of that was, how can I learn a more complicated language outside of school? Well, first up, know that no language is too complicated. And I know where they're coming from. We're constantly led to believe that some languages are easier than others and others are really extreme level difficult. Of all the 7,000 or so languages in the world, even the ones with the least speakers and the least number of resources, every single one of them has been learned by at least more than one person during their existence. And secondly, when we approach a task with that concept in mind of this being a complicated language or this is going to be hard, then we're already setting ourselves up down the path that we don't want to go down. We're kind of subconsciously telling ourselves that we don't think it's possible. And when that's what we do, that's what happens. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And finally, it's all about your starting point and your perception as a consequence of that. You can learn any language and you can do it without a classroom. Okay, now that's out of the way, first things first, when you become your own teacher, design your own curriculum. So the first noticeable difference between self-study and a classroom is the absence of a curriculum. Now, this isn't anything to be scared of. In fact, it's worth celebrating, because when there's no curriculum that is already predetermined for you, you get to decide what that looks like. You get to decide what you learn, what you include, what you skip until later. It's all up to you. So no longer do you have to sit through that dull chapter about a topic that is completely irrelevant to you. You don't need to anymore. It's done. You're in charge. And daunting as it may sound, designing your own curriculum doesn't have to be hard. You can modify curriculum templates found in your resources or online. You could ask ChatGPT or AI for help, or you could just trust your own instinct. Next up, bring in experts when you need it. Rather than being tethered to one teacher, when you become your own teacher, you get to decide what you need support with and when, and bring in experts to help you with those in those moments. Not all of the time. And the benefits of this are plenty. You save time, you save money, you save effort, and having to sit down for hours and hours and hours on Zoom calls when only maybe like one or two of them are actually useful. And it's easier now than ever to find tutors, coaches, the right kind of support that you need, with the right style of support as well. So it doesn't even have to be 1 hour sat down on Zoom. It could be something much more asynchronous than that. There are plenty of options, and you get to decide what you use and when you use it. Develop a solo speaking habit. One of the things that I find really weird about classroom learning is that you actually don't speak that much, really. Even if you're in a class like relatively small, let's say like 10 people, you will speak and then you'll wait for the other 9 people to say the same thing. And then we come around again and you speak and you wait 9 more times. You know, it can be quite patience testing sometimes, right? And then if you're in a bigger class than that, You aren't getting picked every single time because there's too many of you. So you don't actually get to speak that much. So when you become your own teacher and you're in charge and you want to be in control of the speaking specifically, develop a solo speaking habit. Because with this, you get to determine what you speak, what that practice is, how often it happens, and you also get the chance for review, which we'll talk about in a minute. Because naturally, when I suggest this idea of develop a solo speaking habit, the next question is, well, how do I know if I'm doing it right? And that's where the feedback comes in. How many times have you been given some constructive criticism, shall we say, and in any area of your life, and it just hits a wrong nerve, right? You just weren't quite ready for it in that moment. Well, when it's your way, when you're in control of when and how you get that feedback, you're much more likely to avoid these kinds of scenarios. And this isn't about like just being soft on yourself and not letting your feelings get hurt. No, that's ridiculous. Of course, we don't want to let our feelings get hurt if we can avoid it. This is about self-compassion. So in short, there are 3 ways that you can get feedback. One is human-aided feedback. The second is technology and tool-aided feedback. And thirdly, it's self-review. But whatever you decide, whether you decide to save up bits for feedback until you're next in a session with your teacher, whether you decide to check things in the moment with Google Translate, or whether you decide to completely go for yourself and trust your instinct and see if you think you're getting it right before you do either of those things, it's all good. It's feedback your way. The point is that you're avoiding that feeling of like, gut punch feedback. But that last bit, the self-review, isn't always easy. It can feel really impossible to remain impartial when you first give yourself feedback. You're either too soft or you're too harsh. But when you master this skill, you essentially double the value of your language practice. For example, you write something great. Yay, well done, go you. But if you write something great and then you know how to self-review it, you can now self-review that. You can give yourself constructive feedback. You can be that right level, become that neutral observer, right? Be that right level of critical, not too soft, not too harsh. And it's now not just a bit of messy practice. It's an indicator of your gaps, where you need to improve. It's an indicator of what you're really good at and your strengths. And therefore, you'll never ask yourself again, what should I focus on next? Because you will have the answers from your self-review. And if you want to master the art of self-review, then you should absolutely join Promptly. So Promptly is my subscription for language learners who are done with saying that they'll get fluent one day and actually make that one day much closer in the nearer future. Every single week you get a brand new writing and speaking prompt, complete with suggestions for how to use that at different levels, as well as a video walkthrough so you are not left in the dark, and as well as the existing workshop that you already get inside Promptly, how to use any prompt for any language at any level. You'll also get how to self-review, which means that what you do with those prompts now just doubled in terms of its usefulness, because you can self-review and you can then identify what you need to work on next. Promptly is just $10 per month, or you can join annually and get 2 months for free. And that is basically it. Join Promptly at the link in the description or here above my head. And yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. If you enjoyed this video, like, comment, subscribe, share it, tell a friend, all of the things that tells YouTube, oh, people like this, we should share it more, algorithm. And yeah, that is pretty much it. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I will speak to you very soon. Thank you. Bye.